most people say, hey, however much money you think you're going to make, cut that in half. However much time you think it's going to take, double that.
Betty's Eddies started as a basement project. Now it's heading to Times Square. And Sebastian is the guy who's helped make that leap possible. I'm Jason Reposa. After 25 years in tech and cannabis, I host High Functioning to show it actually works. Today's guest is Sebastian Pollock, kitchen director at MariMed and founder of Little Dog Delivery. He scaled one of the top edible brands in the country and built a courier operation that's finally hitting its stride.
It was my opinion that the courier license pretty much becomes worthless.
We get into New York expansion, process engineering inside a real kitchen, and we'll get to find out if Betty's Eddies is actually Taffy. This is Real Strategy Over Hype. Let's dive in. Chew, wait, hope. Hard pass. Pocket uses micro and nano-emulsification, so effects show up in about a quarter hour. It's the gummy experience without the gummy lag. Pocket your chill and keep moving.
My name's Sebastian Pollock. I'm the kitchen director for MariMed. We make products that you probably know such as Betty's Eddies, Bubby's Baked, Vibations, in-house gummies, Nature's Heritage Microdose. And I'm also the majority owner and founder of Little Dog Delivery, one of the state's first licensed delivery/courier businesses in the state.
Wow, that is quite a resume because there's a lot of really popular products in that list. And also one of the first delivery couriers?
Correct. So before with the delivery license, there was the courier license was a little bit different. And so I was one of the first people, along with, there's a handful. Devin Alexander is another one of them who's on the list. Chris Fevry, other people who, Ryan Cohen, who were first.
And this is the courier version versus
well, they actually have delivery business.
Now they have delivery.
They have delivery now, but the first iteration was courier.
It was flawed, though.
Yeah, it was flawed. Fortunately, I've been able to find a good path with a good partner to be able to make it work. But it's a very difficult path. The delivery model was a much more favorable model, which some of them chose to take.
Yeah, because I know they all kind of switched over to the delivery side once that license type got announced. Because the courier side was the way I look at it. It's the difference between like Amazon warehousing versus like DoorDash, right? You're kind of like the DoorDash side where you go pick up the order and then you deliver it, correct?
Correct.
Yeah, exactly.
Correct.
Then, whereas they can warehouse it and then when the order comes in, then they can fulfill it and they get the margin of having to pay only the wholesale price.
Correct. And one of the other flaws was the fact that once the exclusionary period ended, then the dispensaries could just deliver right on this.
Yeah.
So the courier kind of could build up the market, and then as soon as maybe it really got traction, then the dispensary could kind of come over and take over. And that's what was worried about with both the courier and the delivery model. So fortunately, they extended it 1 year, and it looks like there's going to be another 3 to 4 year extension on the exclusionary period at least.
And the exclusionary period is SEE, or is it just SE?
It's SE and economic empowerment, exactly, both of them. So for that delivery specific and courier type license. So
well, I knew they were extending delivery because I think people talk about delivery way more than courier nowadays. So when I found out you had a courier license, I was like, that's wild. Like, I don't really hear people talking about courier licenses anymore.
Yeah, it's because of some of the limitations, and you really need to have a strong partner, which fortunately, again, MariMed they've been a fantastic partner. And we've really worked well together. I think it's a real good illustration how the big company can work with the small company. And listen, they have interest. They want to get into the delivery market. I needed certain support such as cash flow, operations, and and the support that the corporate brings to it. So you marry it together, and we're really starting to build something exciting.
Do you get like a phone call and you're like, hey guys, I know we're making gummies right now, but I gotta go make our delivery. Like, who does your delivery?
So one of the things now, since we rebooted, the first couple of years I was running the delivery, the first year I was running it. Then once we rebooted, we got a manager in place to do that full time because, it's hard to ride 2 horses with one person. Exactly. So that has made a huge difference as well, too. And our current manager, Angel, he's just done a fantastic job and has been a really good story as well, too, because social equity, it's about also giving people a chance and people who maybe didn't have it before. This is his first managing gig. He comes from a, disproportionately impacted area of New Bedford. And he's just absolutely taken the role, made it his own, and run with it. And the business is really starting to make strides.
Is it like, in how many MariMed locations are there?
Well, we have
What's the brand?
Well, so the brand is Thrive. So it used to be
Thrive.
Panacea.
Right. So this is where I'm getting confused. Panacea, I thought was pretty great name. I mean, I don't know why did the rebrand happen to Thrive? Do you have any intel on that one? High Functioning isn't your average cannabis podcast. It's where business, wellness, and culture collide with honest convos from people actually doing the work. Tap in at High Functioning Show and hit subscribe so you don't miss a drop. Now, back to the episode.
I do. It was really to align with what we had across the country.
Right. So other stores were
in our other markets, they were all Thrive. So for marketing material, consistency of message, website design, everything, they wanted to keep it consistent.
Right.
So they said, hey, as we continue to expand into new markets and we're going to continue to open Thrive, let's get Panacea on board.
Was Panacea a brand that was acquired by MariMed then?
No,
they started here.
It was started here. Again, when Thrive was in Illinois, we acquired Thrive, even though we were partnered with Thrive. We didn't wholly own it. And then when we acquired it, they rebranded it. And then similarly, they first rebranded in Maryland because it was it Panacea down there? I believe it may have been Panacea down there, and it was rebranded Thrive as well too.
So it's just this rollout of,
Correct.
And is this the last state basically? Is everything Thrive now?
Correct. Everything's
Got you. So all 3 Thrive locations, which
Beverly, Quincy, and Middleborough.
Right, which we're in. Thank you very much. That's super huge that you're a great partner to us. Are all 3 of them a courier attached?
Yes, exactly.
Oh, interesting. And what's the brand name of the courier?
Little Dog Delivery.
Okay, so Little Dog is in all 3
Correct.
Thrive locations. Any other stores or just really Thrive?
Just Thrive for now.
That was kind of like the relationship probably.
Exactly. And we've actually had, because we have good relationships with other stores, and there's been some talks about expanding. With that being said, is we really want to focus on our core business there's still a lot of meat left on the bone. And I think delivery, because of a lot of different areas now, this one driver change, that was a huge game changer. Some of the social equity funding available, that was a huge game changer. And just last night, the Senate passed the No Town, so they eliminated delivery ban on the No Town.
Wait a second, has that gone through, or it's just discussed? I think
no, it's
in the bill, but it has to
in the bill again. And I don't know, I'm not a legal expert or if it has another step to do. But again, I read on the internet last night that the Senate have passed 30-0 to
exactly. So it's really because the Senate has a bill and the House has a bill, and they do this a lot because they're like, everybody wants their bills to get included in the final thing, and then they have to go to like Ways and Means and like all this other stuff, and then it goes finally to like this group where they kind of say, all right, so you have this bill, we rewrote your bill to be like this one, and then they all kind of have to agree on it, and then there's like a last push to like any last changes kind of thing. I think we're getting kind of close.
Yeah, because like he says, there's the House bill, there's the Senate bill. They're different, without getting into the license caps and all that different.
Well, that was going to say, the license cap difference was the difference between going from 3 to 4 to 5 to 6, and in the Senate, I think was just like, let's do 4
exactly
and stop there and take like a pause maybe.
Exactly. So again,
I don't that's going to net out. We don't know yet.
Exactly. So I don't think this is the end all. I think that this was a very big step, and I think because of even the count of that it was 30-0, whatever the vote was, they're feeling pretty confident that whichever bill goes through, that this will get passed. And when obviously that gets implemented, rolled out, we'll see. But between the 2 driver to 1 driver, that was a game changer. If you add this in, that adds in 50% of the towns in Massachusetts. And especially for me, and I know the other delivery and couriers have the same issues, where if 50% of the towns are banned, you may have to drive through a full banned town to get another test. So that you really,
I know. I'm definitely close to a few of the operators on the delivery side, not necessarily the courier side. But I would like to consider you a friend at this point. But like I have friends, like Devin Alexander, Ruben, all these people who are, and Chris, of course, and Ryan. I know all of them. But like, the delivery model, that's one of the hardest things, is the fact that, I've talked to Ruben about this before. They're like, they literally have to drive through another town just to make their delivery in a different town, Whereas that town has either like there's a great population of people there that could just really, that would actually order delivery.
And unfortunately, in a lot of the towns that the reason it's banned is because they voted to ban dispensaries in those towns.
Right.
And then
that's not the same
that's
thing.
not the same thing.
Right.
But because they're like, well, because they banned dispensaries, we're also going to ban delivery without even just as a default. And unfortunately as well, a lot of the towns with a lot of discretionary income, and a lot of the affluent towns and stuff that a lot of people would want discretion. Maybe a lot of people, and I think a lot of the stigma is going away, but still maybe people who don't want to be seen going into the dispensary or whatever, or just willing to pay for the convenience of having delivery.
Well, I've heard about this before. So what about, like, I think Devin brought this up was he the first podcast? Episode number 1 of the podcast, and we got to get him back on. But he was talking about a lot of his customer base or like stay-at-home moms who like they can't bring their kid to the dispensary and like park them, like put the stroller outside and be like, all right, honey, I'll be right back, and like let me go get my weed and come back. So instead, it's really just like getting it delivered is way more convenient.
1,000%, just like you said. And and again, I was thinking the exact, like I won't even go into that, but 100%, and especially in these towns, again, just based on different studies and stuff there's more in some of these towns, a lot of these towns with high discretionary incomes, there's more stay-at-home parents there as well too, either people working from home and or stay-at-home parents who
well, we're all adults, like you should just be able to order or not, right? And you're an adult, and if you're a stay-at-home parent, we'll say not even just mom but dads too, a stay-at-home parent, like you're a responsible person, and you have to clean your house at some point, and you're like, if you pop a little gummy or something like that, or Betty's Eddies, you can like, you're going to feel good about cleaning your house now, and you're going to be more engaged with your children and yada, yada, yada. So it sounds weird, I think, if a person who's not in the industry or not a consumer to hear that like, oh, there's a baby at home and they're having weed. That's actually one of the things is when people think of consuming weed, they think of like almost kind of the reefer madness that like, oh my God, I'm out of my control. I can't take care of my kids, or I can't even get dressed or whatever. No. I'm talking about high functioning people, hence the podcast, who do consume a little bit, not to get out of like control, but to feel better about themselves, right? To feel good. This is why we call ourselves good feels. To feel good and to feel like, just more relaxed and less stressed out all the time because you're a new parent or whatever. So anyways, long story short, the courier side is actually super interesting to me, but I will say that, like, have you intentions to go full delivery at some point, or you're going to stick with the courier?
I'm going to stick with the courier, and just based on the relationship that it's been a great relationship in the way things are set up. That's how it's, Do
you feel like there's other companies out there that could kind of use this model where, like, there's a person on staff that is an SE or you're in an EE town, I guess, where they could be like, hey, we want to do courier. We have 3 dispensaries, maybe soon to have 4 dispensaries. They could get somebody on staff who is an SE. That person does have majority control of that new company, that thing, but you're kind of getting that guaranteed revenue because now you're in these 3 stores, soon to be 4 stores you can deliver to.
No, 1,000%. And I've mentored some people who are trying to get into it because the courier model is a very difficult model, and like I said,
well, if you're doing it on your own, it's basically impossible.
it's basically impossible, and you have to have a strong partner who's committed to growing it, and it's all the structuring of the deal. And I think with any business venture, understanding what the exit strategy is, while before you get into it, I think that's really important.
What is the exit strategy?
Well, I think the exit strategy is, in my mind, in the courier model, is once the exclusionary model ends, it was my opinion that the courier license pretty much becomes worthless. Yeah. So
anybody can do it now.
Because again, if I've built up this huge business, even through a dispensary, but then all of a sudden they don't need to use me anymore, why are they going to continue to pay me a share, pay this or pay that, other than,
right? So the exit strategy is either millions of dollars and ride it off into the sunset, or nothing.
Exactly. So one of the things that, I wanted to make sure that I had an exit strategy to make when the exclusionary period ends. Little dog will be fully acquired.
That makes sense. Yeah, I mean that makes sense because you've built up the audience. You've had the infrastructure now. Everything's built. You've got a team.
And it also helps really drive the purpose too. For me, we're very singular. My goal is to grow the business as quickly as possible because, again,
is that how your exit is structured? Is like based on a specific revenue marker?
It's exactly based on how they're based on certain KPIs exactly, and how we perform. The better we do, the better it is for me at the buyout. And similarly for them, obviously the better we do to build up the business because they know that this is going to be eventually there. So we're both very aligned, which is great because, again, I want to make the most money. They want to make the most money.
Right.
We're working together. I get the full backing of them with, I get to minimize a lot of the risk with them. They get to enter a space that they wouldn't normally be into. And
now the no towns are going away.
And now the no times going
away. It's like doubling your opportunity now.
And one of the big things, as you said, courier versus delivery. One of the I don't want to say even advantages that I think that I have, but as a courier, even opposed to delivery, one of the largest expenses is the overhead is the inventory.
Mm-hmm.
And having
the cash to
be able to do that and to be able to turn it over and have a wide variety is extremely difficult. So if you're a delivery operator, you need to have a lot of cash to be able to sink it to a wide variety of products.
Yeah, well, because then now you got to, because what are people ordering? They're ordering their pre-rolls or their eighths or something like that. And of course, you're going to order some Betty's Eddies, but it's just like, it has to be that mix. In order to do that, you have to outlay hundreds of thousands of dollars,
if not
to purchase the product at wholesale. Yeah.
And, there's a lot of risk involved with just on that. There's risk involved, not only operating. So, it's double where being linked up as a courier, I don't have to worry about that. And, Thrive is one of the best menus out there as well, too. It's very
SKUs.
I
know you're not on that side of the business.
All I know is what, I have to say what brands I'm looking for because when I'm trying to scroll through it, it's just, I don't want to say too many, but if you're looking for a good selection, there's a lot there. And plus with the this new perks program that they've introduced is really
like a loyalty program.
Has really also cut the prices as well too. So
I was gonna say, I remember talking to somebody on your staff. I won't name necessary names, but like they were talking about how they have such a strong loyalty program and stuff like that. So what's this one called?
Well, it was Panacea Perks. Now it's now it's Thrive
something Perks.
So I'm not quite familiar with the new name of it, but it's the Thrive loyalty program. And on top of, 10 to 20% discounts, on top of special coupons, mailers, we're trying to incorporate a special delivery kind of club and discount.
Well, I was going to say, because that's how because since they want to promote it as well, it makes sense for them to put Little Dog in basically little mini ads within these ecosystems that they have, whether it's loyalty or in-store or whatever, being like, hey, next time you want to get it, you can also just get it delivered. You don't have to come to the store.
100%. Yeah. So one of the, our marketing's done a great job of all the emails that go out, deliveries front and center with get it delivered, which is great. In the stores, our televisions have the, delivery signs in it and they're promoting it. We do bag stuffers that say delivery. So
nice.
Again, advertising's difficult, and if you don't have everybody on board at your retail location, then all the marketing dollars is you're responsible for, which that's one of our biggest expenses, which
because you have to have that if you have the relationship, it makes it way easier. But like, how many deliveries approximately are you guys doing a day?
Right now we're about doing a little bit under 50 a day.
50 a day. That's pretty great though. I think that's not bad. 50 a day
compared to where we were. It's much better, but really we want to be at a minimum of 50 per store per day.
So like 150.
Yeah. I mean, and that's even a baseline. Again, if we look at, I always like to look at the other industries and trends to kind of see how they're coming over. And if you look at delivery is such a big part of, you could go through everything. Everything's delivered now. It's convenience time, whatever, where because of a lot of different factors, delivery in Massachusetts really hasn't taken off like that.
I remember there's a big scare. A lot of the dispensaries were trying to fight it for a while because they were just like, they were scared that it was going to take all their business. That has definitely not panned out.
Definitely not panned out. And, a few things are happening. A lot of the shine of, ooh, going into the dispensary, it's exciting. They've turned into what they are, like liquor stores, they're cannabis stores. People know what they want. So if you can just call, we have free delivery as well too. So if you just want to call and say, hey, we'll have it delivered to my house, you have a window, I'll be there during that window, boom. And there's some operators who, especially who are dealing in the Boston location, who their numbers put our numbers to shame. But again,
there are some ones that are crushing it.
But the logistical nightmares of Boston were difficult. But listen, some of them have managed that. There's a lot more meat on the bone. We're maybe about 5% of the dispensary revenue at this point, I think, give or take. And again, I see a huge opportunity for growth there.
That's fantastic. Switching gears, because I want to talk about you're rocking the Betty's Eddies.
Yes, I am.
Today. That was one of the brands. I remember them from way back in the day. This is going to be a decisive moment. How do I phrase this without sounding like a jackass? All right. I want you to admit on camera that it's Taffy. It's Taffy.
To me, I've been known to refer to it as Taffy. I know it's strongly pushed as an organic fruit chew. and also based on the markets that they're in for regulations as well, too. It's classified as a fruit chew as well, too. And
well, because I guess in different markets, if you say Taffy, it's like, is that like a kid's thing or something maybe?
Or, with some markets weren't allowed edibles, so way back in Maryland, before edibles were allowed, we argued that it was like a dissolvable type.
Well, eventually dissolve, yeah,
exactly. And again, we argued it and we put it across them, and then the commission approved it.
Right.
So it was great, and we had one of the few. We had a really strong opportunity in that market when we were, in all essence, we had our Betty's product in a market that what edibles weren't allowed.
Right.
So that was fantastic.
And you do what you do within the rules that you're given. So I totally get that, and I can respect MariMed for being able to pull that stuff off. Especially if you've got, obviously, MariMed being an MSO, they have the legal teams to be able to fight these arguments and stuff like that. And of course, they'll probably look to you to be like, well, tell us about the ingredients and stuff like that to make sure it really is dissolvable or whatever. So I appreciate that. I'm not sure Ryan will appreciate that answer, but all right, we'll go on. Shout out to Ryan Crandall. But basically, but let's go back to the origin story of Betty's. So Betty's has been here for a long time. I think as far as I understand it, Betty's is number one edible in the market still. As far as I can see.
As far as I understand it, and I mean, it really is a phenomenon. Every market that we're in, it's pretty much at the top. I remember in Maryland a few years ago when all the edibles were in the market, we had 5 of the top 7 SKUs. 5, and the 5 were all Betty's. So that was individual SKUs, and that's going up against vape carts. That's going against flour. That's going against all other edibles. And we had 5 of the top 7 in a given month. So
it's kind of phenomenon. I agree. So, but tell me the origin story. Was there somebody named Betty? I actually don't know anything about Betty's Eddies from the beginning.
Actually, Ryan Crandall, Tim Shaw, and Sean Crawley were the original founders of Betty.
I didn't know, Ryan.
And it was originally founded as a legacy market company. Then, as Tim became involved with MariMed and the founding of MariMed and getting started, once things got going, they ended up selling the brand to MariMed. So basically, it started as them, pretty much making it in their basement to the phenomenon it is here. And even with Betty's, for me, that's how I started with MariMed as a traveling production specialist, flying to Illinois to produce Betty's at GTI through a licensing deal.
Right. So they'd be flying you all around to get these kind of estates set up for Betty's Eddies.
Correct.
So you've been with it for a minute then.
Yeah. So yes and then no. So originally, again, MariMed, yes, we're an MSO, but really rooted in the legacy market. And really, most of the people in our company, most of the managers, directors, and stuff, started as tech level people and worked their way up. So it's really that good people who are there and work.
It's a good MSO.
Good. That's what I hear
every time someone says the word MSO, I could understand being defensive on that one. I didn't mean it in a way like that. No. I literally was just to qualify it as like they're in multiple states.
But so I used to be with Betty's, but we were small, so I used to do, I was a lab specialist, but I still produced Betty's, and so I traveled from state to state to produce Betty's, but then before we had a facility in Massachusetts, I was in Maryland learning all the lab stuff with the intent of setting up the lab in Massachusetts, which we did, but it's kind of, we used to wear a lot of hats.
Yeah.
So, I was working to help develop products. I was working to make Betty's. I was working in the lab. I was, with the marketing and, some of the other people, just on all different types of things. And as we've grown and gotten bigger, they've added people.
Well, when you started though, did you have to, did you build the SOPs kind of from scratch, or you took Ryan and Tim's, and I can't remember the third person's name, but you took their formulations and kind of developed them further, or is it the original formula from day one?
No. So the original, so basically, I recorded them and actually was the first one to really document them on paper in an SOP format. With that is I was taking their process that they had done in the original process, and then along the way, myself and another gentleman, Ryan, who was very instrumental in the launch of Betty's as well too. Honestly, more so than myself. We were a 2-person traveling production team. We were probably 7-8 different markets that we've produced, and different tweaks along the way we would add. And that might be with either just the QC process or different things like that. But the formula itself didn't change. That was their formula. Then when we hired a food scientist, Jake Dean, who, who's been behind, most of our product formulations in the kitchen to this point. They reform. So Betty's, it's pulled now, so it has a little bit softer texture.
So before it was a little bit harder.
Correct. It was a little bit firmer texture than it was, and it wasn't pulled taffy. Now it is pulled. So there were some different changes that were made to that, and actually, the original 5 flavors that we started with, not a single one of them is still in.
Oh, that's wild.
Production, I believe now.
So who's in charge of the flavors?
That's marketing.
Oh, so it comes from a marketing perspective. Well, they're like, hey, we need an orange creamsicle or something like that, right?
It actually, it comes from, it's really a group decision. Mostly it's marketing and sales that work together. So we have different SKUs in different markets as well, too. So in some markets, hey, peach mango and elderberry don't really sell that well, but those are 2 of the most popular in this market. So we have a whole repertoire. And
how do you get that information?
Just being in the market.
Stores?
So yeah, exactly. And they, the team does a great job of data, and especially the sales team, keeping track of what's selling, what's not selling.
So do you guys rate surveys or anything like that, or is it really just relying on what sells? And
I think they do some surveys, but again, combination of surveys. But really, the consumer speaks with their dollars.
Yeah.
What sells? So if it keeps selling, they're producing more and more, and if customers are reordering faster and doing those are the ones that we ramp up, and the slower ones we ramp down.
Yeah, your sales team is pretty great. You guys still do the you got to buy all of them kind of model. You got to bring them all in. If you don't bring them all in, we're not selling it to you.
Oh yeah, and
that's
people, we're in over, I want to say 90 or 95% of the stores. It's like a ridiculous amount. And the one
which is 400, that means you're in 380.
Maybe
or
over
370.
Yeah, maybe it's over 90 again, because there's obviously a lot more stores. I forget the ridiculous number, and the stores that we're not in, for the most part, my understanding is maybe people who aren't as good with paying their bills. So.
Right. Well, that's one of the things I always caution people against when I'm mentoring new founders who are coming to the market is you don't necessarily want to be in every store, because there are definitely some stores that are struggling that may not be around too much longer, that will be, especially if you have another gummy or something like that, they may not be paying you because they're just going to swap to the next gummy, and they'll just stiff you on that bill and go stiff the next person, then go stiff the next person. Awful way of doing business, of course, but that is the reality, and that's what we've heard.
And the nice thing is, because of the strength of Betty's, people want to get Betty's back on their shelves. So, and again, I'm not saying this is right, but an operator who may not be paying somebody else, we might be getting paid just because they want to get the Betty's on the shelf.
They want to pay you first before everybody else.
Exactly.
So actually, do you ever worry about competition? like other fruit chews kind of being developed right now that you're like, oh my God, these guys are coming up? If you're into cannabis, entrepreneurship, or just like hearing from people who actually build things, check out High Functioning. It's real talk with founders, operators, and big thinkers. No fluff, just game. New episodes drop every Friday, and you can subscribe and listen at highfunctioning.show. All right, let's get back to the show.
I mean, I'm sure there are, and it really is. It's a very labor-intensive process because it really is.
You're really pulling taffy then.
Oh, they're hand like when we say this is handcrafted, and there's a lot of differentiators as well too. With the vegan, organic, gluten-free, all that ahead of time. So we were on that bandwagon. Yeah. Plus, they taste really good. And it's taken us a long time to get here. So it's, we've been waiting for competition to come in, and there's stuff that comes in, but
nothing direct, though. It's like, it's mostly just gummies still, right?
Mostly
like 90% of the market's gummies still.
What we've seen
where's the innovation here?
From what we've seen is that people explore it and they're like, oh, that's a headache to do. And I mean, there's a lot of different, up until a few years ago, we were using machines from the early 1900s. Now,
that's wild,
and not because because the brand new equipment, like, oh, we'll build you something brand new, but it's gonna be hundreds of thousands of dollars. And when you're proving concept of something, now credit to these machines and these Model K machines back then is they don't make machines like they used to. I mean,
it's called a Model K.
A Model K machine.
Wow. Do you do it yourself sometimes?
Oh, I used to do all the production by hand, and we used to go into market. Again, I help out once in a while here.
Well, how many people are on the kitchen team?
Usually there's a team of 5 to 6 people dedicated to it, and they produce Betty's almost every day. Now, from where we were started to where we are, now we have a lot more automation in the kitchen now. We have a lot more bells and whistles.
How do you automate something like that, though? Or is it just your SOPs are more efficient now kind of thing? Or is there new equipment coming in?
New equipment coming in, and with, just
like bigger mixers, so you can just mix.
Bigger mixers, more efficient cooking methods, more efficient pulling methods, better wrapping machines too. So I said originally we used machines from the, 1920s. Those machines, again, and listen, the machines today, they're the same thing as these are standalone versus, and they have exactly. And you really have to have somebody who really dials them in. Yeah. And again, you don't have piece count and this and that, and you don't have built-in metal detectors and stuff. So you have to do all, we have to add different pieces of equipment to supplement when we have that, where the new ones have everything built in on their own. And now, again, we continue to upgrade our equipment. And
where it makes sense.
Exactly.
And you don't want to go out of pocket hundreds of thousands of dollars on something. You got to run the numbers, right? Make sure it's worth it.
100%. You have to run the numbers. And certain pieces of equipment, you want to say, like, when you're building it out, okay, what's the demand and how much money do I make this? Where's the bottleneck? And is this piece of equipment going to help that bottleneck? Can this piece of equipment be multi-purpose for what it's using, and how much efficiency does it really bring, and how fast will it pay itself off, and are these rates based on because we're having a market surge, or is this really where we think we are? A product like Betty's, we have a long established track record in Massachusetts, and our sales are pretty
they're pretty stable,
very stable where they've been, as the dollar amounts have gone down just as price compression has gone down. That's happened across Massachusetts. But as new vendors come on again, we're usually one of the first people that they call that they want to get that.
It's one of those wild things, and that we're starting to get those calls a little bit too, because we got a little notoriety behind our products, where it's good to hear people reach out to us before they're open and be like, hey, I'm opening in like 3 months. I've got to get my commence, blah blah blah. Takes 6 months, but they say a couple months, and all of a sudden it's like a half a year later, and it was like, all right, now we're actually ready. Because they had their PLFI or whatever, PFLI, final license inspection,
post-license review, or
post final license,
or
one of those acronyms. It's actually been a minute since I've done any licensing, so I'm like a little bit rusty on those acronyms anymore. One ear out the other kind of thing. It's just like I can only fit so much in the brain, But But we tell the same, thing to people who are in the tincture category, because, we had Harvest Cup, and I was there with Zach Squire. I was, David from Chill was there. I didn't really get to speak to him too much. But like, there's a few people in the tincture category, and TreeWorks is there. I was talking to like Ramsey's, he's a great guy. And it's like, I don't think people realize that, yeah, we're doing okay. But the quote that I was getting out there is the grass is always greener. It's like, it's hard to do these things. That's what you're saying. Like, you've got this built up knowledge base, SOPs, equipment now. And as you slowly start to add these pieces, you're building kind of like a little moat for yourself. But at the same time, it's like, it's not easy to get into these markets, right? Whereas if you're gummy, it's just like, oh yeah, I got a mold, I can pour and scrape it, I'm done. Or you have to pack it, of course. But like, this stuff is not easy.
We've been waiting and expecting competition, but what we've heard is people have tried, and not that it can't be done, but again,
there's a significant capital,
and just stick-to-itiveness. I'll say too. There's a lot of obstacles. Our team, we have really high-performing teams who, on our Betty's teams, and that again, they've done a real.
So, what was the decision to go into like Bubby's Baked? Was that an acquisition as well, or was that like a home?
No, that was developed on our end. So all the products, they've been developed for in-house. See what I did there?
But in-house. Right. That's the gummy line?
That's the gummy line too. So that was really developed for a need where we had. And it's funny.
Well, it's probably a gap in your menu. You're like, well, we don't have anything that fits in the spot. Let's make our own in-house brand. We talk about that a lot. Like the Mike Honeywell episode we talked about just recently, or just got published. We talk a lot about that because it's like dispensaries should have their own in-house brands in a sense, just as a backstop. Because yeah, you can have your Canatinis and your Wilds and whatever. Caminos, I'm not going to name them all, but like they're all friends, so I don't want to like leave anybody out necessarily. But I'm just trying to get to the point. But if you have that in-house brand that maybe is a couple dollars cheaper or something like that per bag, that's the backstop. That's like, oh, if you just come in looking for a gummy, like here's a great gummy for you that still tastes great, probably is not as expensive as like the premium brands. But at the same time, you're still going to sell a ton of the premium brands too. So those in-house brands.
In-house, that's exactly how it spawned really. We wanted to, Nature's is a premium brand. We wanted to keep it premium. We wanted live resin and rosins to go into our vape carts.
Right.
So to transition, we wanted a brand to put Distillate in. So that's where in-house came from. And then when we had that, they're like, well, why don't we make this a value brand for gummies as well? Now, Distillate doesn't go into them. They're full spectrum gummies. So that, that didn't really happen into those. But that was an offshoot. But all these brands were created to take advantage of a gap in the market,
right.
So Bubby's Baked really
wasn't that one.
There wasn't too many baked goods, and some of the ones that were.
Are there any anymore? I can only think of Bubby's Baked. Like, I know there was somebody who was trying to start a bakery at some point, maybe in the North Shore. I can't remember where they were going to have like fresh baked goods kind of thing, infused goods that they could sell through their dispensary as well. But like, that's a tough model. That's a really tough model.
There was a SC company. I want to say Freshly Made I forget their name.
Well, Freshly Baked is a company.
Freshly Baked.
But Freshly Baked doesn't do baked goods, I don't think. Maybe they started.
Maybe a few years ago. Maybe there was a company that was doing it, and they were just, it wasn't feasible just with all, because the products, they go stale if they're not. Stability. There's a lot. Again, there was shout out to our food science team again for making these shelf stable and getting them. But, everybody thinks of a pop brownie or a chocolate chip or a snickerdoodle. So we thought that was a real void in the market.
I think it's a great void. Well, then you get like a Clubby's who has like the kit, right? So I like both of those kind of models. But I'm sure Bubby's Baked, like it's again, partially it's our own fault as an industry that we've conditioned everybody to just go to gummies. So you get like these confections or pastries or whatever, and it's just like their sales are just, everybody just wants gummies. Like they don't think sometimes of these things, even though everybody has one of those stories in college about like, brownies or something like that. And you're like, where did that all go? Everybody's just now defaulting to a gummy.
Yeah. And I mean, we've seen, again, with that, gummies obviously are more popular, but when you don't have the competition and it sets yourself apart, the buyers, they have a choice of I'll say 50, 100 probably plus gummy producers in the state. And I'm sure it's more than that. It's more.
A lot more.
Producers that they can choose from. So obviously getting shelf space in the dispensary is one thing, but getting shelf space is one thing. Then having the customer choose between your gummy where if baked goods and you're the only one, or it could be something where the baked goods catch your eye and like, oh, I never even thought of that. We're the only game in town for that. So
exactly. But how do sales compare? So Betty's Eddies, the last time I looked at, say, like Little Earths, it was, you guys do about $900,000 to $1 million a month in sales based on retail sales.
Yeah.
I don't really look at the Bubby's baked numbers, but it definitely falls in that somewhere, because I always look at like the top 10 edibles kind of thing.
It's substantially less than the Betty's is just really is our workhorse, and
But like, what percent would you say like of it is it? Like, I could obviously look on Little Earths. I was just curious if you
maybe
you're obviously not in the kitchen every day with Buddy.
And looking at some of the numbers, and obviously market to market, it's different as well.
Of course. I'm talking Massachusetts.
Massachusetts. So, and again, I'm not quite as dialed into the specifics markets. I wouldn't quote me, but I would say it's closer to 5 or 10% of the business.
Compared to Betty's.
Betty's is a lion's share of the business. The in-house gummies have really been coming on strong.
Do you wholesale those as well? Or
we wholesale everything. So wholesale is a majority of our business on everything. So
on everything that comes out of your kitchen.
Everything that comes out of our kitchen. Our retail through our stores is a very small percentage compared to what we do wholesale.
Wow, I didn't realize that. So I know the Thrive stores are great though. Like,
oh no, we
business, but it's like,
again, 3 stores versus, again, I told you we were in, at least 250 plus stores, I think that we're in, you know what I mean? And it could be, again, when you said over 300, I was like, oh, when I said we were in 90% of the stores, that's when there was 250 or something. Exactly. So we could have maintained that ratio, but so that's a majority of where our sales are. But
I actually just heard that Betty's made a really partnership in New York. You entered the New York market?
Yes, that's what I'm really excited. Now we're just entered the Pennsylvania market as well too. So that's really
that was in the same press release, I think. And I saw New York. I was like, whoa,
same press release, and Pennsylvania's Pennsylvania, but come on, New York's New York. And the really exciting part, which I feel like they buried the lead with this. If we were in northwest Buffalo, or, in the middle of nowhere in New York doing a licensing deal, still exciting. You're in New York, you're going to get access to that. The company that we partnered with, their main dispensary is in Times Square. So,
it's wild.
Again, to me, I might be biased, but New York's, the most major city in the world, pretty much. And Times Square is the most major place and the most major city in the world. And so to have this opportunity to get our products there is just super exciting. And again, I believe, I'm not super familiar with the New York model yet. I think the plan is to wholesale there too, because I'm pretty sure you can. Different markets are different.
Yeah, there's different licensing. There's the Type 3 branding license. So we do have a lot of New York people who listen to this channel as well. And, they've educated us on some of these things. But Type 3 branding license is what it's called, where you're partnering with somebody who has the license themselves, but you're the brand. So you're not necessarily plant touching, but you can manage the brand externally.
Exactly. So we're going to be, we're really, again, I'm very excited about that. And that's going to be, as kitchen director, getting the kitchen set up, getting our
What's your next trip?
Well, my next trip is actually to Maine next week. I was supposed to be back for the rest of the year because I was on the road for 16 straight months. 12 of those was self-inflicted. But the last 4, because I'm actually new to this fairly new to the kitchen director role. I was the director of operations in Illinois prior to this role. But back to your question, I'm going to Maine next week. We had a licensing deal with Maine earlier this year, and they're producing Betty's up there. So I'm just heading up there to, we always got to check
QC.
Exactly. Check in on the team, support them, answer any questions that they have, and just know that we're there for them as a support.
Yeah. In New York, I think I just saw another press release, which is they just crossed 500 dispensaries in New York. We're only at 400 in Massachusetts, and we've been live for a while here since 2018 when the first starts, and they've been only going at it for a couple of years. They're already at 500.
Wow, that's crazy. I mean, I know my understanding is they sell everything that they could, like they can't produce it up because there's not enough producers.
Well, the New York market is interesting. I have some inside knowledge there of what's happening, boots on the ground. A lot of the stuff, like Omnium, just got their license pulled. They literally they can't even produce anymore. All the people who are, I don't know if it applies to their management team, executive leadership team, or anything like that, if they can even get another license in this market, in the New York market, because there was some really shady stuff happening. So New York is, someone approached me and they were like, hey, you can buy distillate in New York, you want some distillate? And I'm like, how much? They're like, it's like $3 a gram. And I'm like, how is it cheaper in New York than it is in Massachusetts? Turns out there's tons of inversion happening in the New York market. They're taking it in from whatever state, speculatively, we'll just say California for now, a bunch of products coming over in like FedEx boxes. They're opening up. So this is the inside baseball stuff that I happen to like here. And none of this is proof. I don't actually have proof of any of this happening. This is all hearsay. And I do not mean to disparage anybody. So I'm going to keep people's names out of this part of it. But I do know that like these boxes show up full of distillate or whatever, from like, I'll say FedEx or whatever. I don't know what it is. And then they just start making the product. And I think Omnium got in trouble because they were having their brand partners come in and actually do the work for them or something like that. And they were like packing their vapes or whatever it might be. And then they were selling it and like whitewashing it through the licensed channel, the New York license that Omnium had. So like that's because they literally don't even have metric until like, I think metric just happened. Now they actually have seed to sale.
So
finally,
again, obviously where you have no rules and regulations and no cameras and no safeguards, and that's going to happen. But
yeah, it was so easy. People were just like, hey,
I'm sure, in states that are highly regulated, like the state of Massachusetts is, I'm sure, or supposedly there are operators doing that here. Too.
I've heard that, but I still don't have, again, I don't have proof of any of this. I've only heard people talk about like there are people, but I don't even personally know the names or operators or anything like that.
Again,
but I've heard that too. Carl Giannone came on and he very explicit. He's like, I don't know if he knew for a fact either necessarily, but he was very clear that he was like, it is happening.
Again, and there have been different cannabis, David O'Brien, he runs the
CBA.
Exactly. So these are talks that have gone on in them and different things that they've heard. Again, nothing has been proven. People have brought up allegations, and again, specific names haven't been brought up. But really, it's as the market gets more and more competitive, people, a lot of people have put their livelihood, their life savings and everything on the line, and if
or their family's life savings too,
you got it, and investors and everybody on the line, where it's I could either go out of business or do that. Unfortunately, it sounds like some people are making those other choices.
Bad decision on that one,
but
a short-term decision, not the long-term decision.
Exactly.
I actually wanted to follow that up with with all this like traveling and stuff, you had mentioned 16 months straight of travel and under the director of operations role in Illinois.
Correct. So I've had actually 5 different roles since MariMed. So, again, like I'd mentioned before,
where did you start?
I was a traveling production specialist. That was where I started. Then I was promoted to product engineer. That was just, again, kind of a title. Really, it was more of the assistant lab director and traveling production. So I went and taught people Betty's production, helped support Betty's production in other markets when needed, but mostly was spending doing lab stuff, helping to develop lab SOPs, write them up.
Yeah, I mean, you must have tons of experience with that stuff. Now, going all the way to the director side of it, you can probably pinpoint something right away and be like, I've made that mistake already. Like, you don't have to make that mistake.
1,000%. So from there, I helped oversee all the markets production in a different role. And then this director of operations role became available in Illinois. And it was a really exciting opportunity.
Did you move to Illinois?
For about a year. Well, I flew there Monday, flew back every Friday.
That's wild.
So they wanted me to move out there. it was a really good opportunity, but long story short, the facility was struggling a little bit with the current director of operations. I said, hey, I can go in there and I feel like I can make an immediate impact and difference. Give me a year, I'll turn it around, and then I'll come back here and I'll find something else. They said, okay, Sebastian, we need this market going. Was able to go there and do that. So I was, again, it was a great opportunity for me to do that because most of my roles have been subject matter expert roles.
Yeah.
This was an opportunity to manage, I managed over 80 people.
Yeah.
And it's a lot more micro focus where all I had to worry about the facility, where usually I'm worried about broad every facility and all different things.
So on the operations side, how do you define like that role? Because operations just seems this like obtuse kind of word for a lot of people. So from a founder's perspective, when I go to hire an operations person, what am I looking for?
Well, I'm a kitchen director now, which is very specific to kitchen operations, and I handle everything corporate that's involved with kitchen. As a director of operations, like in Illinois, it was pretty much overseeing everything from production, which would be kitchen, lab, packaging, cultivation, logistics, fulfillment, so lab, non-cannabis inventory.
But if there's a bottleneck, that's your job to fix.
100%.
Because you're just like, you see it, like why everything else is going smooth and we get to this point and everything kind of falls apart or whatever. You have to then inject yourself into that and figure it out.
1,000%. And that's where my experience came in. And specifically with the lab, like you had mentioned, actually, I'll quick go back. It was a really cool story. I helped and pretty much designed the Illinois lab when I was doing the lab stuff. Then I got to see it built out. So it was a real cool experience to see the lab get built out of the design that I did. I then got to follow up when I did my master's. I did my capstone on the build out and launch of that Illinois facility.
Very convenient.
So then I got to do that. And then what made it even cooler was 6 months later, then I got the director of operations job to run that facility. So
full circle.
It really came full circle. So to really see the facility before it was built, through the build out, through the struggling development, and now to see where it is and able to pass the torch to the next person, that was very fulfilling. But just to your point, it's identifying bottlenecks. I could walk through the lab and just as one example, if you hear the machine, I'm like, that doesn't sound right.
Machine doesn't sound
right. Or, we saw a tech and they were filling carts and they were veered a little off of the process, and immediately, but I could see that and asking, I thought, and someone said, brought the lab manager over. We
shortcut it this way, and you're like, you can't do it because there's another reason for why you do this.
Exactly. So I was able to correct that, and and like you said, finding bottlenecks and how do you affect that. One of our big logistical issues that we don't really face in other markets is we're located in Southern Illinois, about 5 hours from Chicago. 90% of the dispensaries in Illinois are located in Chicago.
Yeah.
So being able to get deliveries, it's 5 hours just to get into that area. Then if it's another 2 hours to deliver, maybe you get 3 deliveries in, and that's still a 16, 17-hour day.
You own the delivery, though. It's not like you outsource that part.
Correct. We tried to outsource it. It wasn't. Yeah, it wasn't.
Like it's worth the gas money.
Exactly.
Yeah. That's one of the funny things is like people think Massachusetts is a small state, but it's actually hard to get end to end on the state. And you're talking about Illinois, which is even bigger, and it's 5 hours just to get to Chicago. I think you can cover all of Massachusetts in like 3, maybe 3.5. If you go from like P-Town all the way to say
North Adams or something.
Some like New York-based like border town. But like it's amazing. Like the I wouldn't say inefficiencies, but because it's such a regulated market where you have to keep eyes on it at all times, the logistics of the whole thing are just maddening, especially as a small operator, because we have to outsource our stuff. We were thinking about doing internal transport at one point, but we were like that's also expensive because now you have to have at least there's one driver rule when it comes to less than it's like $5,000 inventory, something like that you can carry. And that allows you to kind of like do your own transport, but you still have to have a driver. You still have to outfit the vehicle. You still have to get the vehicle. With security cameras, like that. And you have to have a dispatch. Someone has to be at headquarters dispatching. And it's like every 20 minutes you get to check in with your location or some crazy thing.
Yep, they've actually scaled that back now.
Okay.
I believe it's when you get to the location and then leave. again, I should know this a little bit, but they did just roll it back so it's less restrictive than the every 20 minutes and some of that. But that's for, to your point, even for us getting to scale, having one location and you have a dispatcher overseeing it makes it difficult. But now when you have 3 locations and one dispatcher can oversee 3, it makes it much less expensive. Similarly, if you have on fleet at one location, that's expensive. If you spread that cost over 3 locations, it makes it
on fleet being the software,
the software, or any of those things where if you're able to spread the cost around more things, it's cheaper.
Well, I always think about these things as, we try to get efficient, right? We never want to sacrifice product quality, but we also are all thinking about like, how do we make our process more efficient? Because, cash flow is a lot of this industry is based on cash flow because when are you going to get paid, right? And then it's okay, how much do we have money to lease a new vehicle, outfit security cameras, hire a full-time person in the thing and have a person down at headquarters, like doing the dispatch part of it? Or do we just pay the $150 per, shipment? We had, I think, 28 orders going. We stack our days because we don't get transport all the time. So we had 28, I want to say maybe 30 orders going on one day. And multiply that by, say it's 30, multiply that $150. That's almost $5,000 just in transport in that one day.
Yeah.
Right. Now, of course, there's a lot of product in that, but like, I'm thinking to myself, man, that's a full-time position right there. $5,000 a month. You know what I mean? Like that's just one of the deliveries out of like the 8 or so we have scheduled throughout the month. So it's just crazy to think about having to drive 5 hours just to do a delivery. Like, one of the things they probably could have done, and maybe it's something that you guys have considered, is putting a location probably closer to Chicago so you can almost have like an in-between.
We're exploring different either warehousing options or other stuff. Just ideally, what I was working on, and again, I'm out of the mix now. So, but having a vault up there, because 90% of our business is up there. If you have a vault there where the drivers can leave, you just bring inventory up there once a week. Whole bulk of it once a week. The drivers are located from there and they go out and make their deliveries from there. So I think they're working on something like that for efficiency. And we have a couple partners with which we're working on renting vault space and different things. The laws are a little tricky and they're changing, but again, these, like you said,
the target always.
As far as operations and finding the bottlenecks and the efficiencies, that's kind of.
Is that the number one job of an operations person?
Well, I mean, I'm glad my compliance people will probably hear this. For me, in my head, is making sure people are always safe. Making sure there's a safe work environment, making sure the equipment that they're working with is safe, making sure that they're properly trained on how to use the equipment so they don't hurt themselves. So that's really goal first and foremost. The second goal for operations, I would say efficiency. Whether I'm in a direct supervision or direct management role, or I'm in a subject matter expert role, I always look at that I'm working for the people. How do I make their jobs easier? How do I keep things in mind? How do I know that, one, they know that I have their best interest in mind and how we do it? And how do we be more efficient about it? And let them own it. They're doing these processes every day. Mm-hmm. I'm going to get my ideas from them of, hey, what's bothering, standing like this doesn't feel good. Maybe we could do something like this. Or if we could, we're working on more efficient ways to grind powders and stuff like that to save time there. So always identifying the bottleneck. So as an operations manager, that is something that I'm looking at is where's the bottleneck? How do we move through that? And a lot of the time that's with new equipment.
Yeah.
And again, but one bottleneck always creates another bottleneck.
100%. Yeah, because we brought in some new equipment because we're like, all right, we're scaling a little bit. We can afford a piece of equipment because it was very manual for the first 18 months of our operations. Hand doing everything basically. We had like this little matrix fillers from Rocky Mountain PLC that would like fill our bottles for us.
Yeah.
But other than that, everything was manual, right? So we're like, okay, we can splurge a little bit. Waited, I want to say, after we made the decision to move forward with it, it probably still took 5 to 6 months after that just to get the equipment in because our bottle shape's rectangular. Would I do it again? I don't know. But that's beside the point. But we have this bottle. And so it was, it's very hard to wrap those and label those and stuff like that. So we had to get videos from the company who's making it to make sure that, yes, it does work with your bottles. We got it here, and it took us still a couple months just to dial in that first kind of few runs. So it's like every new piece of equipment also creates additional bottlenecks you don't foresee necessarily.
And the big thing is and that's where it all comes together, where is if you can make 1,000 gummies an hour or 1,000 packs of gummies an hour, but you can't demold them quickly enough, or you can't pack them fast enough, or you can't do it.
Right.
Do you really need that piece of equipment that even though that piece of equipment, oh my God, we're going to be able to make so many? Or similarly, if you have a piece of packaging equipment that can package 1,000 an hour, but you can only make 100 an hour. And
so it's right sizing those things.
And unfortunately, a lot of this equipment between automation versus not automation is the difference between like 1,000 and 10,000. It's not like you can scale up, and the price is just.
Because in terms of dollars, it's the difference between $10,000 to $20,000 to $100,000 to $200,000 or more $1,000. That's the difference in the price.
Exactly. So again, is the juice worth the squeeze? And again, when we're trying to build it out and add processes, can this piece of equipment be used for multiple processes? And can we assign a dollar value to it? Does it create another bottleneck in other places that we're going to need to get another piece of equipment to really utilize it? And is there a better option that we could spend these dollars to maximize in other areas? So it's really an equation to go through.
And does a lot of those skills translate to kitchen director as well?
Yeah. 100%. It's the same thing. Again, I'm a Six Sigma black belt as well. I don't know if you're familiar with that.
Sounds dangerous.
It's not.
It sounds like you could hurt somebody.
No, not at all. It has to do with more efficiency, or if like you're.
That was just a little joke for me. That's why I'm laughing so much. Six Sigma black belt. I remember Six Sigma as it was coming, or not as it was coming, as I first learned of it. And it just seems so extra, but there's value in it, you're saying.
Yeah, I mean,
what is Six Sigma?
It's total quality management as well. Toyota really developed it with TQM and total quality management. And every year they always come up with different things. I forget what the late, the one where you do sprints and
Agile.
Agile.
Well, that's from tech. That's I know that really well.
So basically, Agile's basically built off of Six Sigma. Now there's a new one built on that. So in my opinion, they basically take TQM or total quality management. They keep repackaging it different things, calling it different things with new techniques. So basically, it's just a way of really breaking down the process, every process, to a base, and removing the different variables to understand how things affect each other and how you can most efficiently work together, from whether it's teams, whether it's equipment. And it's almost just a little bit of a mindset of thinking of, okay, this is the process. How do we break it down? Where can we have the most impact for the least amount of dollars? And then it's all really risk-reward equations.
Yeah, well, I think there's a lot of risk mitigation as well. And that's what we think about in the food safety side. We think about HACCP, right? We want to make sure that we know where things could fail, and in advance make sure that we have backup parts for it, or if there's a contamination potential risk with these things, solving that in advance and making sure that the risk has been mitigated on that stuff.
And I think that's a great example. So for instance, we have little pieces like rubber gaskets or plugs or stuff for the equipment that's essential for it to running. We're going to want to have one, if not two backups for that.
Full backups. So especially if it's a gasket, you're just get 100 of them.
Exactly. Where, let's say, there's an arm of a piece of equipment that wears out every 6 to 8 months or every year, but that arm costs $3,000 or $4,000. We may not have one on hand or two on hand. We may say, hey, once it starts to get worn, we're going to order it to save the cash flow. So again, it's that
in storage, and when we need it, it'll be there for us.
Exactly. Or we're going to order it just on demand once it starts to wear, because we're going to be able to see it. We don't have to outlay the cash flow here, and we can better use that cash flow somewhere else.
Yeah, you're talking about a lot of the finance side as well, which I think is really important. And I think this is a really good education for the audience who maybe are new founders too, to be like, this is how professional organizations operate, right? This is what we're talking about, is you have to know, in some cases, what you're saying just now is you don't necessarily have to outlay the cash on the day one either, right? Because you can use that cash for something else, and the cash flow matters so much that like if we can get even net terms on something, like pushing it off 60 days, stuff like that.
That's where relationships really come in and trust as well too. So just like you said, it's all about cash flow and where can we use that money the best and most efficiency
in the moment.
And again, especially being a MSO, we've got a lot of different balls in the air and expansion and this and that. So the more we can, like you said, leverage those relationships to get terms, to not expend cash flow when we don't need to, so we can basically use it where we can do the most damage the most quickly. Because at the end of the day, there's a limit to what you can spend. And if we say, hey, we've got a pot of X amount of money and we've got these 4 options, well, maybe I can choose option 1 and option 4, or maybe only option 3, or maybe 2, 1, and a little bit of something at 4.
Yeah,
exactly. So
yeah, that's definitely how we look at it internally here. But like going back to Six Sigma really quickly, and then we can start to wrap. Is there do you think it was worth it?
100%. I think that.
So anybody who's coming up right now, who's looking to be in operations and kind of in that type of role, or even kitchen director, you're saying like potentially could benefit from something.
Correct.
Like
I think there's 2 real key benefits from it. One, it teaches you how to analyze, break down information and data, how to really make data-driven decisions, not finger in the wind decisions, and really, again, a way of thinking about things. So I think it's really beneficial. Truth be told, we don't really, tech companies and other stuff, they really go deep into it and they follow the model. I use it a lot of conceptually just because in the company, we don't really institute it in a formal way, and there aren't other people who are trained in that.
Well, there's other models like EOS, like the entrepreneurs operating system. A lot of people, but it's like there are very strict guidelines of like what you can do, and it's just like it's really hard to like jam those things into certain companies. So it's a lot of the stuff that I hear about, I make a mental note about it. I'm like, all right, maybe we should try something like this, but we don't actually practice a specific philosophy of how to run a business necessarily. Of course, we have our core tenets of like what we believe and what we think makes a good company really great. But other than that, it's like we don't. So when you say Six Sigma, I'm like, oh yeah. When you say Agile, I'm like, oh yeah. Back in the tech days when I used to run all these tech companies, that was a thing. That was what we actually practiced. Not super formally though, to be honest though. Right? We didn't have a Scrum Master, right? We didn't have, so we did do Agile in a sense where we were doing sprints, and every I think it was probably like a 2-week cadence of sprints. We'd have our daily stand-ups and a couple of like small little things we'd add into our process, but we weren't like super formal about it.
Exactly. So to me, the Six Sigma is more way, like I said, to think about it. The second area is, I think it's a really good resume builder as well too. It's, you can do online courses where, it's fairly extensive, and then there's tests that are involved.
How much does it cost to get one of those? Is there a white belt too?
Exactly. There's white belt. There's all different belts.
Okay.
There's plenty of people who don't get the black belt, but again, it's kind of the, hey,
you're in the system.
I'm proud to have that on my resume, from an accredited place. So for us, not too much expenditure, you can get it. And I want to say maybe the course was even like $1,000, and maybe the testing was like $100 to do or something like that. With that being said, I think a lot of companies would also support that if you were in operations.
Does MariMed give any kind of education stipend or anything like that?
I can't, it was a little ways back. I can't remember if they did pay for it, if they paid for part of it. They may have. I think I may have gotten like some Black Friday deal too where I got it discounted, and they may have even paid for me. Again, they've been very good with certain things like that. So I did want to also go back to where you were talking about knowing the numbers. Going back to delivery, understanding, and I'm sure I don't have to tell you, most people say, hey, however much money you think you're going to make, cut that in half. However much time you think it's going to take, double that. That's to get open. That's pretty accurate, and really understanding the costs, having it spread out, knowing where your income and revenue is coming from. And just, I talk to a lot of people who want to get, especially into the social equity space or delivery, or just even into the cannabis space. And, the catchphrase, oh, well, we're going to do it better, and we're going to do this. And it's like, do you have the numbers? Do you have a solid business model? And more times than not, if you're setting, I wouldn't really want to start a cannabis business in this market currently now because a lot of the numbers don't make sense, especially if you're
A small scale.
and stuff like that. So know the numbers and know what you're getting into.
Yeah, no, I definitely appreciate that. And that's one of the things I always put into new founders and new people talking about like, oh, I want to come up with a gummy or whatever it might be. It's just like cost accounting. That like, there's CPAs out there. We were actually at the MCC meeting on the past Friday at the Clark University, and one of the presentations was on cost accounting because it was like there's hidden costs you don't realize either. So I think people have to get educated if you're starting in any company. It doesn't matter if it's cannabis or not. Knowing your numbers right from the beginning is like, here's how that was one of I would nerd out on that stuff. So I was at an advantage because I actually really liked that math because it also at the end of the day showed you how much money you'd make. So I would mess with numbers all the time to be like, all right, if I can get my packaging down to like $1.50 or whatever it might be, that means an extra $10,000 a month in revenue or whatever. It was like all these fun little mathematical formulas that I just really loved that stuff because, when I was a kid, it was the lemonade stand. And I was already doing that math from like when I was 8 years old, I was doing that math. I was like, all right, how much do the lemons cost? Oh, I'm not doing lemons. All right, how much does country time cost? You know what I mean? Like, how much is the ice? How much, the water? I can get that for free out of my hose. You know what I mean? Like, and the cups themselves are like 10 cents each, and like doing all the math and then being like, okay, if I sell like 10 cups today, I'll actually gross profit, excluding my labor, of course, like $50. You know what I mean? If I sell like this many cups. So I geeked out on that stuff. And so I think I was well equipped to start businesses because I was already thinking about costs from the beginning.
I think there's so many hidden costs, just like you said, that people don't realize, especially people I know before I worked in a facility versus after working in a facility. Like, I knew there were so many things that I didn't factor in. I was trying to start up my own cultivation and other stuff before I actually started with MariMed. But then once I got started with MariMed and getting, I was like, oh my God, I didn't factor in this. I didn't factor in this. I didn't factor in this. And it's really death by 1,000 cuts as well, too, it's those little things that you don't factor in and being over optimistic on one side and not allocating enough resources or time or whatever to other things. And
that it's like enthusiasm and optimism are great, but it can definitely get you down the wrong path because you're just like, it'll be fine. It'll all work out. Meanwhile, and this is from the cost accounting panel they had, the MCC meeting. Meanwhile, you're losing $1 every time you sell a unit. It's just like, I'm losing $1 every unit. What am I doing? Like, if you didn't do the numbers beforehand, you would never know that.
And, the also, not even the elephant in the room, but the tax consequences. Most people have no idea of the true tax consequences of 280Es.
Yeah, we have a future conversation coming up with some tax people that we're trying to schedule right now that are going to go into a lot more 280E stuff. So stay tuned for that. If subscribed, please subscribe because the tax accounting stuff, 280E, there's a bunch of interesting stuff happening around that right now. And of course, there's, potential future legislation, which we're not holding our breath for right now. But that should be a fun show. But yeah, that's super important because at the end of the day, you might have made $1, but you're like, well, based on your COGS, after paying 280E, you're actually still negative $1 or something like that. It's very easy to lose that money.
Super easy.
Yeah. And by lose, I mean pay taxes against it.
Exactly.
Very cool. So as we start to wrap, any shout outs you want to give? Obviously, MariMed team, shout out to the MariMed team. Betty's Eddie's teams, Bubby's Baked, in-house. There's a fourth brand, I think.
Vibations, which is, again, that's been one of our super popular, and I may have mentioned, I may have forgotten to say Vibations earlier too, but Vibations.
You did say it, I just forgot.
Oh, okay. That's been one of our ones that's really been popular with the convenience, the hydration, the energy, and like
hydration, that's right.
Changing the narrative behind cannabis from it's to sit around and be lazy to get up and be active.
The electrolytes, I think, is a great idea because it's just like, now we're talking about high functioning people. Like, I'm not going to be sitting around all day smoking weed. No, I've got a job. I work out in the morning. I've got kids or whatever it might be. And I've got, when I go to work, I'm one of the best salespeople at my place or whatever. It's like, but yeah, of course, I can crack open a Vibations, toss it in my drink, and I still get either workout or relaxation at the end of the day kind of thing. So
100%. And then along with that, which we hadn't talked about that, I think we were going to get to, but we kind of skipped over and got to something else, is the Nature's Heritage microdose.
What is that?
So these are functional mushrooms. Again, our marketing and sales
I've
team,
heard this.
they do a great job of what's popular in the regular market and how can we integrate it into the cannabis.
Yes.
Yeah, so Vibations was one of them, traveling the powdered beverages. And functional mushrooms have become very popular. The benefits of them.
What kind of blends do you guys have in those?
Oh, we've got a chill, a remedy.
But is there it's like lion's mane?
Oh, lion's mane, reishi.
So all the typical functional mushrooms you see.
And they're in different combinations, blended with different cannabinoids to get different results. So there's a chill and a relax. What's your favorite? There's a nighttime one. I like the chill one because it's just kind of mellow. Full disclosure, I'm not as into the edibles. As the edibles kind of get me, like they grab me. I'm a big dab guy, but these functional mushrooms, again, not being a edibles guy, they just give you that nice, and you feel the different effects. Sometimes I see a lot of this stuff is marketed as
marketing can get carried away with that. You're going to feel it.
But I mean, the blend of the functional mushrooms with the different cannabinoids, you really do get the effects of it. And again, it's no sugar in it. It's just a pill that you swallow, so you get the effects of it. Fast acting too, because it has our dehydrate technology in it as well too. So,
which is the Vibations tech, right?
What's also in Vibations, it's in in-house gummies as well too, that's
fast acting gummies.
Fast acting, and again, a lot of people say fast acting. This was actually something that I was a part of with the lab, developing this, partnering with Dehydrate. And
so Dehydrate's a company.
They're a company that we partner with
to get their tech to be able to install.
Exactly, that we use, where edibles typically take me an hour to an hour, 15 minutes to kick in, and they're very inconsistent. I was extremely skeptical of this fast acting. It happens. Yeah. I went out to Michigan with our food scientist, and we were out there just talking things through. They gave us some samples. I took one within 10 minutes.
Wow.
I was feeling it.
So those gummies that are fast acting are typically like 30 minutes.
Yeah.
So when they say fast acting, they more mean medium acting, I guess. But at the same time, it's just like I think any consumers are happy if it's less than an hour at least. You know what I mean?
That's why I was sold too, because for me, I'd take it. I don't know if I'm feeling it. And then an hour 15, hour and a half later, then I'm feeling it. And it was just very inconsistent. These, because I was skeptical before we were out there too. And, but once I tried it in multiple products, I was like, this is the real deal.
Absolutely. I mean, we've been a fan of the fast acting tech for years now. And I made every single type of edible you could ever imagine fast acting. And it was just way better than waiting an hour plus. Definitely with you on that one. But as we wrap, any last shout outs or anything like that?
I think we've hit most of them. We had Little Dog Delivery. We had MariMed. We went through our brands. I think we hit most of them.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Sebastian.
Thank you.